What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Celtics Daily with me, Mike Zakarian, as we continue to dive into what can only be described as the unsettling Boston Celtics NBA offseason, as we're trying to figure out who the heck's actually going to be on this roster by the time we tip off the new NBA season. And today, we're going to be taking a look at the available free agents. We've talked about in previous videos, it seems like most of the big-time movement in this era of the NBA is going to come through the trade. A lot of it's already happening before free agency starts, like we saw the Orlando Magic take this massive swing where they traded for Desmond Bane for a total of 4 first-round picks and a couple other players as well to make the salary cap work. But because of that, we're still going to dive into some of the free agents to see if the Celtics are going to be dabbling a little bit after they make some moves. But before we dive in, do me a favor, if this is your first time here or if you're a returner and just haven't done it yet, make sure you hit the subscribe button so we can get this video out to more and more Celtics fans. Let the community blossom and hit the little notification bell so you know the next time we're dropping that Celtics content. But let's go. We're going to start with the first group of players, the old heads. And if you want a more detailed breakdown, highly recommend The Athletic. John Hollinger just broke it down into tiers for us. Really good stuff over there. But let's get started with the big old guys. We've got LeBron James and we have James Harden, both in LA right now. Both have player options too. And it seems like all the scuttlebutt, if you will, I don't see James Harden moving, right? He's in a pretty good situation with the Clippers right now. Makes sense there. I know he continues to flame out into the playoffs, but we're on like year 15 of that. So we should no longer be surprised when he chokes it out in the playoffs. But he does have the player option. I do think he stays unless he does some sort of opt-out within to get more money. But I can't imagine he actually leaves the Clippers. The other guy in LA, Mr. LeBron James, who is my age, which is insane that he's still doing this. He's got a $52 million player option. Now, I was listening to the Bill Simmons and Ryan Russillo podcast, and they were saying it's been a little too quiet, that we haven't heard too much from LeBron and his camp. We know he likes that main character energy, right? The spotlight to be on him. I still can't see a world where the Lakers go and trade for Luka Doncic, no matter how you feel about Mr. Luka Magic himself. And LeBron goes, I'd like to go somewhere else. So I know Cleveland, there's been the rumblings that he's coming home. I don't know. I think LeBron and James Harden are both staying there. Be really surprised if either of them moved. But man, that would make for some great content. So if it happens, I'm down. I'm down with it. But those are the old heads. I think that's kind of boring. Oh, I'm sorry. There was a third old head that we have to talk about who also is most likely staying where he's at, and that's Mr. Kyrie Irving, who, has been Twitch streaming lately. So there, you want to catch up with Kyrie, you can do it that way. But the former Boston Celtic, he tore up his knee midway through towards the end of last season after they made that big deal for Anthony Davis, sending Luka to the Lakers. Kyrie's due back sometime in like January, maybe February, depending on how the Mavericks are doing and where they're slated in the playoffs. I think Kyrie's staying back, right? Staying in Dallas. One of the beneficiaries of the Luka trade, besides all of the Lakers fans to get this new generational guy for the next 10 years, is Kyrie Irving. Not because all of a sudden the Mavericks got better, but because Dallas is so desperate to have to pay this guy. They have no guards on this team. They really don't. That's why Drew Holiday continues to be somebody that is in the Dallas Mavericks target list, right? Because they don't, it's like Spencer Dinwiddie's on that team right now. That's it. They really are so desperate for Kyrie. So Kyrie's got plenty of negotiations. So I imagine our guy Kyrie is going to be going back. Now we get to a little bit more interesting, still some expensive guys, but again, it's hard to tell what the actual market is going to be for a lot of these guards because so many of these teams are limited in cap space. And I think we're going to see more teams, instead of having like a big three, right, where you have 3 different guys making not max money, but big time deals, right? I think we're going to start to see 2 players who are making somewhere north of 40 million, and then it's a bunch of role players. And this is honestly why Boston is doing what they're doing. I don't think they're able to sustain a roster like that's that expensive. So I think like when we look at a guy like Fred VanVleet, who is due, he is a team option, which is different from some of the other players we've talked about so far in the Houston Rockets. He's set to make $36 million if the Houston Rockets pick it up. However, it sounds like they're not going to pick it up, but try to renegotiate to bring Fred VanVleet back to Houston. Houston is a team we've talked about quite a bit, and it's a team we should be paying attention to because they have a ton of assets. They are one of the few teams in the league that are like comfortable with the salary cap, and they are comfortable with their draft assets. They have a lot of young players they can move around. But Fred VanVleet seems to have been a really good fit in Houston. So I do think he ends up staying, which is kind of boring, right? So we're like, why are we still talking about Fred VanVleet? The other guy, Miles Turner, they're currently on an NBA Finals run. We game five, or right around the corner, I think, depending on when we're recording this. But Miles Turner, I imagine, is going back to Indiana. I can't see them going down this finals run and then not paying the guy. He's been a very important piece for them. I think he's making like 30 plus million right now, so it'll be curious to see how they handle it. But I think Miles Turner makes a ton of sense staying in Indiana. So let's actually talk about somebody that we think will be on the run, and that is Giddy Up, Josh Giddey from the Chicago Bulls. Okay, I don't know what they're going to do. I think there's certain teams that would spend a lot of money on Josh Giddey. I could also see Giddy not trying to get a max and being like, let me get to the right situation to play some competitive basketball. For those that were paying attention from like February on last season, Josh Giddy was essentially like after they moved Levine, was essentially averaging a triple double and shooting like 40% from three on like decent volume too. So I don't know. I'm a big Josh Giddey fan for what he does on the court. Okay. I know his 3-point shooting was kind of why he fit out, if you will, from OKC. But Chicago's in this weird spot, man. Like, because I don't know if it makes sense for them to pay him. And I don't know what other teams are going to open the pocketbook to like sign a big check for Giddey. I don't know. I really do like his game, but he needs to be surrounded by shooting. I actually think that core of Josh Giddey and Kobe White is kind of nice. I think those two play really well together. Even though I'd love to see Kobe White on a Boston Celtics uniform. I love Kobe White's game, but they like their team is just so weird. Chicago just waited way too long to start moving off pieces. I guess they were just waiting for Sacramento to scoop them all up. Let's send Vucevic over to Chicago too. Let's just relocate Chicago in the West. But that is that tier right there. I think most of those are staying put, except for Giddey, who I think could be on the move. How about the Minnesota Timberwolves? They are in such an uncomfortable spot because they have new owners. They're a team that does not spend a lot of money. Typically, they don't go into the tax, even though they're paying their guy Rudy. But that's part of the reason the Karl Anthony Towns trade happened in the first place. They've been all over the Kevin Durant rumors. However, it sounds like that's starting to fizzle out. And who knows, by the time this video posts, KD might be traded because that could happen any minute now. So if that ends up being full news, I apologize. But if the KD move is to happen, you know, Julius Randle, who's got a player option of like 30 plus million, will be on the move, or Rudy Gobert, one of those two, along with Dante DiVincenzo, probably on the move. But then some of their real core pieces. Naz Reid is a free agent. Sounds like he's going to be opting out. I don't think the Celtics will have the cap flexibility to go after somebody like Naz Reid, but I imagine he will have a market because he's like a 7-footer that can like consistently shoot threes, good rebounder, not really like a post player or anything, but a real legit stretch five. So I think he could absolutely get some cash out there. I think paying attention to what the Detroit Pistons do, Naz Reid would make a ton of sense there. But I will say Naz Reid, it would almost be like trading Peyton Pritchard. Naz Reid is like the son of Minnesota. Those Timberwolves fans absolutely love him. I don't know if you've seen the Naz Reid towels from the last two playoff runs, but my guess would be Naz would want to stay in Minnesota if they're willing to pay him. It's just Minnesota's such a weird spot, right? To have back-to-back Western Conference Finals runs, being oh so close to the NBA Finals, and now it feels like they might have to tear down some of this and then rebuild around Ant-Man, but that's what happens when Rudy Gobert is as high paid as he is. The other guy we're going to talk about is Nickeil Alexander-Walker, who you can just say it now. He's not going to be on the Timberwolves next year. He is what we saw him do in the playoffs, right, where he can play elite defense. He even slowed down SGA just a little bit. Can shoot the three ball too. You know, even if he goes to a bad team, he's not going to be like, oh, he's averaging 25 and 5. Like, that's not the type of guy he is. But on any sort of good team, he makes a ton of sense. So whether he's in like your fifth starter, but probably the same role that he was in Minnesota, it makes sense. He comes off the bench, defends your best guy, can hit some corner threes, will win you a playoff game or two, right? So those guys, I believe, are on the move. Let's take a look at some of the rest of these guys and see if there's anybody that makes a ton of sense for the Celtics. One of the guys who I'm a big fan of, and the Memphis Grizzlies, who knows what they're doing, right? Because sending Desmond Bane out and collecting all those picks, are they like throwing a grenade, shout out John Morant, and blowing it up completely? Or are they trying to just retool around John Morant and Triple J, Jaren Jackson Jr.? But Santi Aldama, I'm a big Santi fan. He was somebody that, honestly was like lurking around in the Sixth Man of the Year competition for a little while. He can't really play small ball five because I do think he gets beaten down low, but like a good shooter, good four. I think he plays decent defense. I'm a big fan of him. How about Keon Ellis from the Sacramento Kings? That's a name to watch. I don't know what Sacramento's going to do. Keon's like, he basically had to play point guard for them when Malik Monk got hurt. But Keon is one of the best on the ball defenders in the league right now. I love his game. Jonathan Kuminga, who like the Warriors seem to hate deep down, but now there doesn't seem to be a huge market for Kuminga, so that he legit might just stay with the Warriors next year. Which, like, if you want to talk about toxicity, whoo baby, that'll be it. Here's some more names. Some Brooklyn Nets. You have D'Angelo Russell here, and Cam Thomas are both potentially available. Cam Thomas and D'Lo, the thing that they have in common is they will shoot as much as they can. They will get those shots up. So those are two names to pay attention to. Speaking of sixth man of the year, Malik Beasley, he's due for a paycheck. I wonder, is it the Pistons that are gonna give the 3-point shooter the cash, or is he gonna go somewhere else? Some other names, again, not as sexy. Brooke Lopez, whatever. Trey Jones, who like played some decent ball for the Bulls after getting traded by the Spurs. Obviously, Al Horford. Kevin Porter Jr. of the Bucks already said that he's opting out, but it sounds like he's just trying to get paid more from Milwaukee because Milwaukee has no point guards. But the last two names I want to talk about, John Collins, who there's a chance he just opts in and is still with Utah next year, or he opts in and gets traded. But John Collins, like, again, he's just been lost in the sauce in Utah. Would love to see him get to a good situation. And then Quentin Grimes. Quentin Grimes, who played insane basketball after getting another brilliant trade by Nico Harrison, where he traded out Quentin Grimes for, oh my gosh, Caleb Martin. Quentin Grimes was insane for the Sixers. He was averaging like 25, was just elite shooting. Again, this was happening after Embiid, Paul George, McCain, Matt, everybody was out, so Quentin Grimes had to do everything. But he did show like some real upside. He stayed healthy that second half of the season. So I don't know. I'm kind of intrigued by Quentin Grimes to see where he's going to go. And then one more name I'll throw at you that if the Celtics can get him for super cheap, I'm fine with it because they need some front court help. Excuse me, and that is the Swiss, the Atlanta Hawks, Clint Capella, who I don't want to be paying Capella a ton of money, but I do think if you can get him on the cheap, I do like that for a little stopgap there for Celtics big man. But that's the list of free agents, and that's kind of what I was saying. Like, it's not a sexy group of people. I mean, I don't know. Everybody's got their own taste, but you know what I'm saying? And so that's why I think you're going to see more and more. A lot of the free agents, I mean, a lot of the offseason action is actually going to start before free agency. That little window between the draft or right leading up to the draft into July is when you're going to see a lot of movement. And I expect, again, like we just saw the Bane deal, I'm assuming we're going to see some KD stuff. And who knows, maybe the Greek Freak, maybe that gets spiced up a little bit. But anyways, that's the free agency that we're looking at heading into the offseason. Let's see what the Celtics do. Appreciate you for hanging around. And again, if you made it this far, do me a favor, hit the subscribe on the way out, knock down the notification bell so you know when we're dropping some Celtics content as I bit my lip. And then get in the comments, is there a free agent I didn't mention that you're interested in, or of that list that we talked about, does anything seem to make a ton of sense for the Boston Celtics? Appreciate you watching. We'll see you next time.